Hello, my people. This is week 3 of our Remain Bible plan, and we're going through Genesis 43 to 50, finishing that book, and initiating the book of Exodus from chapter 1 to chapter 12. Jacob's sons return to Egypt to buy food, resources, and all that. And after a very dramatic plot, Joseph ends up revealing himself to his brothers. The re-encounter happens. It's a beautiful thing, a beautiful scene. Joseph's brothers, as you might imagine, they were fearful, astonished by the encounter, by the revealing, but also fearful that something would happen to them. And Joseph reassured them that God was the one orchestrating everything for the greater good. It's interesting to see this, and Joseph actually recognizes this is what happened. God was the one orchestrating everything, making sure that Joseph was in the right place to help his family and his people. So the whole thing that happened was actually God's provision towards them, and Joseph recognized that and reassured his brothers with that truth. So Jacob's family relocate to Egypt, and Pharaoh actually welcomes them and they prosper. Then the biblical text describes how Joseph's policies actually brought wealth to Egypt, and kind of showing the reason why he was so prosperous in that land. He was bringing a lot of wealth to Pharaoh and the land. So Jacob is already an old man, and as he's preparing to die, he summons his sons, and interesting enough, Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, and blesses them all as their sons. So he pours his blessings to his own sons and kind of adopts Joseph's sons as his own and blesses them as well. So time goes on, and Joseph also dies. And when he does, he prophesies, he predicts that God is going to take his people out of Egypt and bring them to the promised land. And on doing that, he requests that his bones will be taken with the people whenever that day comes. And here Genesis ends, bringing a closure to the overarching story of the patriarchs. So Exodus shifts the focus from the patriarchal story to the story of enslavement in Egypt after many, many years since Joseph died. Pharaoh fears that the Egyptians will be outnumbered by the Hebrew people. He calls up the midwives and orders them to kill the babies, and they don't do it. Things get more complicated when Pharaoh actually orders that every male baby gets killed upon birth. And then we get to the amazing story of Moses. Moses is born, he's a beautiful baby. His mother protects him, puts him in a basket, throws him in the Nile River, trying to save him from the certain death after hiding him for some time. So God's providence once again strikes. Baby Moses within the basket survives the whole crossing of the river until he is found by the princess herself. As if that alone was not wonderful enough, the princess actually hires Moses' mom to take care of him, which gives him the proper awareness of his heritage, his people, his God. But he's also raised in the royal court, which gives him influence. But Moses, a grown man now, he witnesses an Egyptian hurting and mistreating a Hebrew person. He gets mad, he strikes the person, the Egyptian, and he kills the Egyptian. He hides the body, but then he finds out that he was seen, and he decides to flee. He flees to Midian. Fast forward in time a little bit, he is already settled in Midian, got married. He's taking care of his father-in-law's sheep when something strange happens. He sees his bush, and the bush is on fire, but it's not consumed by the fire. So he decides to get closer to see what's going on. But as he goes on, he hears the voice of God saying, hey, take your sandals off, man. This is holy ground. And he's astonished by it. He hides his face. He's super fearful. It's in that encounter that God actually reveals his name to Moses. He says, I am the Yahweh. I am who I am. There's a lot of great theology that comes from that name. Many, many aspects of God's character that is revealed by it. And I would love to go deeper in that and talk about it, but this is really not why we're recording these videos. But if you want to learn more about it, just let me know. Let me know here in the comments or whatever, and maybe we can have a conversation about it. There's a lot of good stuff that comes out of it. So back to the burning bush. He's there, he says, God, I cannot speak well, I'm not eloquent enough, da-da-da. And to each and every excuse, God has a solution, has a reason for it, says he's going to be with him, he's going to empower him, he's going to give him all the resources he needs. And he keeps making excuses until God says, hey, go, I'm going to have somebody to help you and all that. So Aaron is lifted up. God charges Moses to go back to Egypt and to release his people, to deliver his people from the oppression of Egypt. And Aaron, his brother, his older brother, is going to help him out. So Moses gets back to Egypt, and he meets Aaron, and they pray. There's the plan. God speaks to Aaron as well. And they finally go to Pharaoh for the first time, and they say, hey, I'm here because God sent me to give you a message. The message is, let my people go. And Pharaoh said, nope. So then the plagues start. And the thing about the plagues is, for each one of them, Aaron and Moses, they go back to Pharaoh and say, God's telling you to let his people go. But Pharaoh keeps refusing, saying, no, 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 you're not going, you're not going. And these are the plagues. God turns water to blood, sends frogs, gnats, flies, livestock disease, boils, hail, locusts, darkness, and finally the death of the firstborn. But God wanted to protect the people of Israel, and he instructed the people to get a perfect lamb, a lamb without blemish, sacrifice it to the Lord, and use the blood, putting it on the doorposts of the houses, so that whenever the spirit of death would go by it, whenever the Lord would visit them, would see the blood of the lamb, he would not strike their firstborn, and they would be saved. So the people did that, and every Hebrew house had the blood of the lamb on their doorpost. There was no death for them, but everybody else was absolutely devastated. The Bible says that there were cries and mourning throughout the land of Egypt, from the Pharaoh to the slave. And of course, as you can imagine, the death of his firstborn devastated Pharaoh. And he finally came to his senses, apparently, and he said, okay, just go. And there was a haste. The Egyptian people were in haste that the people of Israel would simply leave their lands. And it's in that dramatic scene that we see the journey to the promised land begin. The people, as we're going to see in the following chapters, the people is going to go through 40 years of wandering in the wilderness until they finally get to the promised land. I hope you're having fun as we're going through this journey together. Do not be discouraged if you're just starting or if you missed like 50 chapters. Don't worry about it. Tomorrow, get to the reading of the day and move forward. Do not look back. It's going to overwhelm you. You end up feeling super discouraged and not doing it. The most important thing is that you develop the habit of reading the word in prayer every single day. And it doesn't come easy, all right? You need to do it day by day. You're going to fail here, but then you succeed, and then you succeed again, and you fail, and you succeed 3 times until succeeding is the rule and failing is really like the super rare exception. And it's going to drive you closer to God. It's going to help you build a relationship with him because it's going to get you to know him better. And that's the whole point, right? So stay strong, and I'll see you next week.